video, we're going to talk about manual pinning, meaning you get on Pinterest and you upload pins yourself versus going into a tool like Tailwind and scheduling the pins to auto-publish using the tool. So one thing I noticed that's kind of concerning that I want to start off this video with is I've been manually pinning for the last month or so, and every time I put out pins here, you can see when you look at the little eyeball symbol how many impressions they're getting. I was getting over 1,000 impressions on average. Sometimes I would get 2,000 impressions, but it would be around 1,000 to 2,500 impressions, and this was every single pin that I was putting out. Now, some of these pins would go on to get some saves, some clicks, but for the most part, I'm just getting lots of impressions at the moment as these pins are starting to age and build their way into the Pinterest search algorithm, where eventually they'll start getting found and getting clicks. All right, so that's a little interlude to manual pinning. What I was doing, I was scheduling them every half hour, and I was putting out, 20, 30 pins a day. Now, I started using Tailwind because I was getting a little caught up with trying to keep up with doing this every single day, and I've got other things I'm trying to do in my business. So I used Tailwind. I uploaded a bunch of pins in bulk, wrote the descriptions, copy pasted the URL links, and you can see here the last 5 or so pins that have been put out now using Tailwind. They're only getting 40 to 50 impressions. I'm not getting 1,000 impressions anymore, and so that's a little concerning. I don't know necessarily if Tailwind is the cause, if Pinterest is rewarding me, when I get on and manually pin versus using a scheduling tool like Tailwind. But I will point out a couple key differences. So let's go ahead and go into the create a pin option here on Pinterest. So when we're creating our pin, we get to upload our pin image here, and then we get to add a title and a description and the link. Right? So just keep note of that this is how it is when you're using Tailwind to schedule your pins as well. You upload your image, you can give your image a title, you can give it a description, and you can copy paste in your link. The one thing that's different when you manually pin is you're going to have this add alt text option here. So this is where you can explain what people would see in your pin. So if this text, it'll be read by screen readers. So if people are using like voice assist, things like that. It also, I think it plays a role in Pinterest understanding more what your pin's about. They're going to read your title, they're going to read your description to get ideas of what your pin's about when they're trying to decide who to show your pin to. They're also going to look at your file name that you name your image when you upload it here in the drag and drop uploader. And then I think they're also going to read that alt text. So you want to make sure you're using keywords that relate to your pin and what you're trying to rank for within all these different areas, and then also in the URL that you're linking to. Now, when we go into Tailwind in a moment, you're going to notice we don't have an alt text option. So I don't know how much that plays a role either. Again, it just seems kind of weird to me that using Tailwind, my pins are barely getting any impressions now, and they used to get lots of impressions when I would manually pin. All right, so I've logged into Tailwind, and one of the things that I did yesterday as I'm trying to now do a little bit of study and try to figure out why the drop off in impressions, is I went ahead and changed my schedule, and I made it so it only pins out one pin a day. Because the other thought I had was, well, when we come in here and we create a schedule, so I'm going to go to so here I am, here's the dashboard just to show you where we're at. So we've got the dashboard. When we come down here, this little microphone symbol is called Publisher. So when we click on Publisher, it's going to bring us into this page here. So these are going to be a lot of suggested pins that they're pulling for us that we could quickly, pin out to a board. None of these really apply to me though. What I would do instead is go here to this upload an image or video. This is where I would grab my pins out of a folder on my computer, and it would upload all of them here into Tailwind. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a second, but let me finish explaining the different options up here. So we've got our drafts, which is the page we're on right now, where we're going to upload different drafts and get them scheduled. Then any pins that we've got scheduled, we're going to come over here to the scheduled tab. And so you can see all these pins that I've already uploaded, already pasted in the URL to the article that they're linking to, gave them a description, picked out a board I want them to go to, so they're all ready to go. And we can see my schedule over here as well. It shows one pin a day for the next however many days, 200 and some days, right? Now to actually set your schedule, you go here to your schedule. So like I mentioned previously, I was pinning out about 20 to 30 pins a day, and so all I did here was just chose to use the smart schedule. So I went to recreate schedule, and then I would just go up to, let's just say I go up to 15 times per day. So I go to 15 times per day, I click recreate schedule. Well, now it's going to fill in a bunch of different time slots for me. So you're going to notice a lot of these time slots might be pretty close together. For example, here we are on Tuesday. We have an 8:06 p.m., we have an 8:27 p.m., 8:49 p.m. Sometimes we get them within minutes of each other, 9:22, 9:29. So that was my next thought was, okay, maybe using Tailwind is causing my impressions to drop because these pins are just going out too closely together. Before, I mentioned when I was over here manually pinning on Pinterest, I was just uploading them every half hour. So I was going in here to the publish at a later date. And when you select a time, it does it in half hour increments. So I would pick, I'd start maybe at 8 a.m. in the morning, and then I would pin my or schedule my first pin. Then I'd come back in here with the next pin. I'd go to 8:30, go to 9, go to 9:30, and I would do that all the way down to about 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And that's how I'd schedule out between 20 to 30 pins a day. Now, there were times that I did double book a pin to go out at the same time at 7 p.m. or at 6:30 p.m. So 2 pins would be going out at the same time, and that would happen occasionally. So that's the only thing that kind of cancels out a little bit about, what if these times are just too close together? Because I did have that before where I would pin out a couple pins right at the same time, and I was still getting lots of impressions. So I'm going to continue to kind of experiment. As I mentioned, what I did was I just changed my schedule down to once a day, and I want to see if things can reset. Maybe I was pinning out, like I said, too many times, too close together using this tool. So what I'm going to start doing is just using one a day. And so I'm going to have, a pin go out from Tailwind, and then I'm also going to manually get on and continue to pin once or twice a day as well. And I'm going to spread the times out so they're far apart from each other. And I'm going to see if my impressions start to come back to normal, or if I notice that my manual pinning impressions are actually the ones getting, more impressions versus Tailwind. So if I notice that my manual pins that I upload myself into Pinterest are getting more impressions, then that might be the clear-cut signal that Pinterest is penalizing the use of Tailwind. Now, one other thing to explain that's happening, let me go back out to my profile here. So as I browse through here, a lot of these pins I mentioned aren't getting a lot of impressions. However, there are still some that were getting lots of impressions. Like, for example, these 2 pins here, the 36 golf practices and the 31 golf swing tips, these both got way more impressions than what I normally get manual pinning. This got 3,000, this got 9,000 impressions. And these ones were ones that were put out by Tailwind. So again, it's not every single pin is getting, totally whacked on impressions. There are still some pins going out from Tailwind that are getting lots of impressions, but the majority of them, as we scroll through here, you can see all these ones that are getting, 50, 40, 60 impressions. And as I scroll down here, you're going to notice a lot more of them that aren't even making it to 100 impressions. And this is just really weird to me because I used to get over 1,000 every single pin that I was putting out. And then, here it's like hit or miss. Once or twice, I'll get one that pops off and gets me 2,000, 3,000 impressions. And that's just, far and wide between. So I don't know. It's a little concerning. I'm going to keep doing some studying. The biggest thing, though, is the clicks, which I know are going to take time because these pins have to actually get indexed into the search, and it's in the search where you're going to get most of your clicks. When they first get blasted out and get these initial impressions, that's usually on people's home feeds, people that are following you, or people that are getting recommended similar content to what they've recently been searching. But most of the time, you're going to get actual clicks on your pins here when people are actually searching in the search bar and they're finding them. So if eventually these pins that I'm putting out every day start ranking well in the search, so people going into the search bar here, typing in golf tips, well, then I want my pin graphics to start showing up, here in the search results. So let's just go to all pins for the search term golf tips, and you can see currently I don't have any of those new pins showing up. The ones I do have showing up here, golf tips I wish I knew earlier, is an older pin from like 2017, 2018 that's still ranking here 3, 4, 5 years later. So the whole goal here is just put out as many pins as possible every day, and eventually some of those pins are going to make their way into the rankings here on search that people are typing in these different phrases for, and that's where I'm going to start getting a lot of the clicks. This pin drives like the number 1 or number 2 most amount of clicks to my website. It's like over 1,000 some clicks a month I'm getting just from this one pin here, and that's because it's ranking, near the top for this phrase golf tips. So let's go back into Tailwind, show you a little bit more how that works. Let's go ahead and actually schedule one here. So we can go to drafts, and then we're going to go and upload a pin by clicking that little upload pin button that's over here usually, or we can go to create a new pin here. There's two different ways to do it. So I'm just going to click on this upload image button. All right, so I'm going to grab a file off my computer. Make sure your file size is not too big or else it'll flag it and it'll say you can't upload it. So try to keep your file sizes like 3 megabytes or lower. Maybe it's 2.5 megabytes just to be safe. But so I grabbed a pin off my computer. There's how it got uploaded into Tailwind. Then it's got 3 blank boxes, one for you to pick out a board to schedule it to, one for the title of the pin, and then one for your pin description. Now, when you paste in the URL, so this golf drills URL that I'm going to find on my website, when I paste that in, it's automatically going to pull the title off that article for you, and it's going to insert it here as your title. So all you really have to do then is add a description and pick out what board you want to schedule it to. Or you can manually adjust the title and put in your own unique title that you think is going to make it a click-worthy pin. So when you're all done typing in those different fields, you just hit add to K, and it's going to send it over here to your schedule, and it's going to punch it in one of your blank time slots for you. When you get done scheduling all your pins, you can shuffle them around by hitting the shuffle button, and it'll mix up the order. So if you're putting out a pin to like 5 different boards, well, it'll schedule it 5 times in a row, and you might not want that same pin going out 5 times in a row. So you can just hit shuffle, and it'll mix and randomize it so it shows up, maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, for example. So then again, once we're done scheduling our pins, we can always go over to our schedule tab and take a look at the ones we've scheduled. If we want to add or select different boards, we can do so here. And then if we want to go ahead and shuffle things up further, we can hit shuffle again over here. So that's going to be the scheduled tab. Smart Loop, this is where we can go ahead and take our best pins and repin them. So it'll kind of pick out, what content that you want to repin, different times of the month. So you can set up kind of like a smart schedule so it'll keep looping your best pins over and over and over every month. So that one back here on Pinterest, for example, the golf tips I wish I knew earlier, since it's one of my best performing pins, maybe once a month I want to pin it to a different fresh board. So I could set that up using the Smart Loop feature. Then we've got published, so we can go in here and look at all of our history of all of our published pins that we've ever put out onto Pinterest using Tailwind's tool. So you can get a lot of analytics data. So we could just sit here and sort by how many repins it's got, when the number of comments, or the date when it was pinned. So we can see that. So this is, I think, a time frame from 2017 through 2021. So almost 4 years. I've been pinning out, different pins from time to time using Tailwind, but a lot of my pins I do manually as well. That's where I've spent the most of my time, is manual pinning. But I can just look through here and see which pins seem to get lots of repins that did well on Pinterest, and I can try to set those up, adding it to a smart loop. You've got that option here. So again, we'll go back up here, the 5 golf putting drills to do indoors. I could just click reschedule this pin or add to smart loop if I want. Or you can try Tailwind communities as well. That's where you can join different kind of group communities to try to share your pins to and get kind of like a group helping you, supporting you, repinning your content with you and you're repinning their content type of thing. Then we can go back into the Your Schedule tab, which I showed you a little bit ago. This is where it'll recommend some of the best times to pin on different days, so you can add those to your schedules, or you can just use their smart schedule and it'll automatically pick the times for you depending on how many pins you want to pin out per day. All right, so that's a little overview of Tailwind. We can go in here to the analytics as well. They've got a further summary that you can look at all kinds of data and see, how many pins you're getting each week, how many domain pins, how many followers you're gaining. Let's go down here to this one called Insights. So we can see how many followers total we have. You can see a graph. Since May 4th, I've gone from 92.29 up to, 92.45. So that's a 16 in a week there. We can go into pins here. We can see I've put out 5,254 pins to my profile. I'm adding about 109 in the last 7 days. We've got 34,000 repins, so we can see how many repins we're getting each day as well. You can see the chart here. So this day in particular, we got 37 repins, and then this day we got 19. We can see comments. We can come down here and see our virality score. So for every pin that I put out on my Pinterest account, I usually get about 6.5 repins. So that's good if it's above a 1 ratio. So for every pin you put out, hopefully you get at least 1 repin. I'm getting 6 repins per pin. Engagement, this is repins per pin per follower. So it's another metric they calculate. And then engagement rate. I don't pay too much attention to these. I more just, am focused on getting clicks. Clicks matter to me, getting people to my website more so than actually getting repins. But repins can help you. That helps your pins gain credibility and gain strength so that Pinterest will hopefully rank them here in the search. And the more you get them up here in the search because of those repins, because of that engagement, the more chance you're going to then get those clicks that you're trying to get to your website. All right, so that's going to be it for this video, just walking you through the basics of manual pinning as well as uploading pins to Tailwind, how you can do both, how you can mix and match. I try to do both at this point, but I am noticing my impressions are dropping off with using Tailwind all of a sudden. So I'm going to do some experimenting and see what the cause is. I'm going to try to go back and give it a reset and just do some manual pinning for a few days and see if my numbers come back. If I continue manually pinning and seeing the same results of barely getting any impressions, like 16 impressions, that's all I could get for a manual pin, then that's going to be a sign that it's something else that's not related to using Tailwind. So I'm going to have to dive deeper until I figure that out. So if you want to find out what the cause was, make sure you come back for the update video in the future. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel as I continue to put out some experiments here on Pinterest and show you what's working, how I'm getting 1.5 million monthly views on my Pinterest account, and how that's leading to 10 to 15 to 20,000 clicks a month back to my website from Pinterest. So that's free traffic. I don't have to pay for Facebook ads. I don't have to pay for Google ads. I get 15 to 20,000 people for free to my website thanks to Pinterest and thanks to getting seen 1.5 million times a month on Pinterest in the search algorithm over here using the search bar when people are finding me in the different searches that they're doing related to golf. All right, since you made it all the way through today's YouTube video, I want to share with you an important resource I put together regarding Pinterest. So it's called Pinterest for Business. It's updated every month, so there's going to be new content coming into this resource library. You can scroll down the page here and you can read through all the sales copy, but I'm not really a salesman. All I care about doing is putting out the best videos that I can put out for you so you can help teach yourself how to use Pinterest using these training videos. So you're going to get a lot of cool worksheets, different checklists that I start you off with, and a free month of Tailwind. We're also going to go into a lot of the beginner steps starting out, but we're going to get more advanced as well, like how to use your business account to sell things on, Etsy or your website, or build an email list. I'm going to go over the Pinterest algorithm, how it works, so you can learn how to get more pins to stand out on Pinterest so that you can get more clicks to your website, to your blog, to your products. We're going to talk about the secrets to creating viral content on Pinterest. I've got a viral pin checklist you can check out here as well. And then we're going to get into the automation aspect so you can set up scheduling pins with Tailwind to save yourself a ton of time, as well as how to, manually pin still to get some benefit from manual pinning. So overall, there's all kinds of modules here inside of this course that you can use to better your Pinterest knowledge and, help your business out and get better at marketing on Pinterest. So again, we're adding videos every single month. So this library of videos is only going to get bigger and bigger. And the price is going to go up with time as well because, the more content we fill it up with, the more we're going to need to start charging. And so with that being said, go ahead and get the early bird pricing today. You can check out the link below in this YouTube video, or you can go to asknickfoy.teachable.com and just look for this Pinterest for Business course. I also have some other courses, so try to scroll through them and find the one for Pinterest.